The Dark Knight gets dynamic. Here's your look at new Beast Kingdom, Batman The Dark Knight Returns, DAH-044DX, Batman and Robin. One of the most celebrated comic books in history is making a splash yet again, and with Beast Kingdom's highly articulated DAH Dynamic Action Hero series, the DAH-044DX is a special edition that includes both Robin and a comic-inspired blue-costumed Dark Knight figure. The Batman in the DAH-044DX is an imposing action figure standing at 20 centimeters in height with nearly 20 points of articulation. The Robin figure, a new child-sized DAH design, accurately recreates the petite frame of the young vigilante. The design includes 18 points of articulation and stands 16 centimeters in height. Before we see what Bats has been doing with his time, I'd like to thank the folks over at Beast Kingdom that did provide the sample of the DAH-044DX Batman and Robin that we could have a look at in this review. Following up to that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the tape measure, and while I'm going ahead to measure Batman, I also wanted to let you guys know that this set is currently available online and in comic book and specialty stores if you guys are interested to pick up a set for yourself. In the meantime, though, living up to its namesake of dynamic action heroes, that's with an 8 in the front of it, Batman, in fact, does stand 8 inches in height. That's including, of course, the points in the tops of his cowl. To flip that around, though, the figure's about 20 centimeters in height. Then on to Robin. Robin's going to be a smaller figure, but also using a new style body. Robin, though, stands at about 6 inches. She's actually only about 5 3/4 of an inch, but I wanted to maybe round it up to 6. And that works out to be a figure, again, in this case, that's 15 centimeters in height. His and her display stand do come included with a set as well. And while the stands are identical to one another, here's Batman's, for example. Here's Carrie Kelly's Robin. You can see, obviously, the colors are very much different. If you overlap them with one another, I'm sure you could even see 3D movies. Anyways, though, Batman does have printing at least of his face, and there's some bats there as well. Batman The Dark Knight Returns, again, done in a translucent blue. Batman printed on the front of the stand. Carrie Kelly's Robin, on the other hand, does have Robin up the top corner, again carrying over the Batman The Dark Knight Returns, but differently done here, Robin printed here on the front of the stand. The colors in the stands aren't the only things that change. You can also see as well they're using different post systems. More the traditional route, Batman is using the regular standard post with the adjustable waist clip here on the top that can clip around Batman's waist. Robin, still while using the same waist clip design, actually is using a slightly smaller stand. We have seen these stands also being used before as well. So they are nice, the fact that they are using similar types of stands. I do kind of wish that the stand bases, the actual posts that they actually use the waist clips for, could have maybe been a similar color. Maybe either Batman could have been clear, or Carrie Kelly's Robin could have been black. Jumping now over to the accessory end of things, the figures do come with quite a lot of accessories. Maybe what we'll do first is we'll start with Carrie Kelly's Robin. The Carrie Kelly Robin, or really to that matter, Batman also does have 3 shared between the two of them. I know you're only currently counting 2, but there's technically a third. Let me just go ahead and grab this right now. I only have so many hands, you know. But for their hands, they actually do come included with, let's see if we can zoom in there. They actually come included with 3 types of batarangs. Well, I shouldn't say 3 types, indicating that they're all different from one another. They seem to be all sharing the same mold, the same plastic as well. And these can fit into either one of their hands. Let's say for the sake of this, we're going to talk about Carrie Kelly. Carrie Kelly's Robin actually does come with a tiny little hand. In fact, all of her hands are really quite tiny. This one is actually perfectly suited for holding the batarang in her hand. Batman's, on the other hand, does also come included with one that actually slots as well, the batarang. Although this one I want to make sure I've got the yeah, these are the right ones. There is a slot in these, although the slot's a little harder for him to get in there. And again, they hold the batarangs also as well. Carrie Kelly, while still sticking with her, she again comes with a couple of different swappable hand options, one for holding the batarang, one for holding her slingshot. Although, unfortunately, you don't have the option to have her holding the slingshot on the other side. This hand right here, the one I have in my own hand, only does fit onto this side of the figure's body. It doesn't go onto the other. Though she does have, at least in this case, a couple of also included gesture hands. Changing the hands are pretty simple here on Carrie Kelly. We can go ahead and just remove the existing hand. Tiny little pegs, though. And because the glove is green and the part of the glove hand obviously is green, I do wish that they could have actually met somewhere in the middle and kept actually the peg also in that same green. Either way, though, we can go ahead and attach the new hand. Tiny little pegs. And then once she's got the suitable hand in place, then she can hold the next accessories that we're going to have a look at. The figure comes included with two variations of slingshot. One that looks drawn back as she's ready to use. One that looks more relaxed that she can have draped to her side. Themselves, they actually look quite good. The handle's painted black. Of course, the cross or the Y top to the slingshot is painted nicely in silver. And of course, then you've got the actual strap portion either relaxed or drawn back, again, depending on how you want to have the figure displayed. For the sake of this, let's go ahead and just take the relaxed slingshot. It does fit well in her hand. Again, it's only sadly, unfortunately, available on this one side of the figure's body, and she doesn't have the means to hold the slingshot on the other side. One thing I also did want to mention before I actually forgot is that I noticed here with Robin, I'm going to go ahead and just remove, first of all, the slingshot, just because I don't want to get that in the way. I will say right away, I do notice that her arms seem a little too long. I feel like the arms probably should have gone just a little bit below her waist. The arms do seem a little on the longer side. But either way, though, the figure does come with two swappable head sculpts. She comes with this one, which I prefer of the two, and then she comes with one that has the hair more down and combed to the side. In both the cases, it seems like the head sculpts are almost identical to one another. The mouth maybe seems a little more smiling on the more outrageous hairstyle, and the more relaxed one has almost more of a neutral gesture, neutral expression on her face. The skin tone is good, as well as the coloring that they use for the eyes and the lips. Again, I do preferred this route myself over this one, but again, you can easily just swap these out there on ball joints after all. And then, of course, no Robin would be complete. A Carrie Kelly Robin would be no complete without, of course, the included glasses. The glasses are done here with a solidly painted-in glass lens, or the actual front of the glass lenses. I do kind of wish that they could have also included maybe a second pair that would have actually had translucent plastic. One, because only, obviously, if you're going to be putting over top of the figure's face, you're not going to be able to see her eyes. Again, we've seen examples, obviously, not only in the comics, but also in other collectibles, where Carrie Kelly has included translucent glasses, which I kind of wish that this figure could have included as well. Just to fit this over top of the figure's face, first of all, you have to get it around her ears, and it does seem like it's a little more of a harder thing to do, because you kind of have to put it on the one ear. I found, honestly, that if you have it just on the one, it's more than enough to actually just have it. Well, see, I can kind of get it on both the sides. But the amount of sculpting that they put into the hair, for example, it's a little harder to get actually the frame wrapped around her ear. It is somewhat possible. And again, it does finish the look rather nicely here for Carrie Kelly. Again, the only thing I would have liked to see maybe is a secondary pair of glasses. Then you had one that has these more solid painted-in glasses, the actual glass portion. Or then again, you would have had one that had the translucent lenses instead. Either way, though, that's what Robin looks like. Again, a nice-looking figure, other than short of maybe just the fact that the arms aren't short enough. The costume looks quite good there as well, a classic-looking Robin suit. Robin, right, of course, printed on the top there. And again, you've got the little laced-up sections there at the front of her suit. The cape, well handled. I like the material that they would have used for it. There does not seem to be, from what I can see at least, I'm obviously feeling it as well, that there's no wireframe anywhere on the cape itself. Batman does have it on his, but Robin doesn't have it on hers. Again, you got some nice detailing done to the figure overall. The suit itself does sit a little loose when it comes to like the lower thigh area, so you can kind of see, again, because of that, the ball joints sort of sticking out at the tops of the thighs. But overall, it's a nice looking figure. For the articulation on Carrie Kelly, the head rotates all the way around. It's on a ball joint. Does look up quite a lot. Does look down also quite a lot as well. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. I got to believe that there's probably a secondary ball joint just below the actual cape, where she actually does have not only a ball joint here, but she also has a ball joint down there as well. Then the figure does have what seems to be just straight hinges in her shoulders, but you can at least pull off 90 degrees on the figure. You take the arms, move them forward, you can move them back. I suppose you could wrap them all the way around, but of course that's going to get things rather tight here on the material. The figure does have a bicep swivel. The figure does have not a double hinge necessarily, but quite a generous hinge, single hinge, that you can get about a 90-degree angle bend. The figure hands rotate all the way around. Of course, the upper torso seems to be on a ball joint. The legs split out somewhat easily. They seem to be on ball joints, as you can see there as well. Legs go forward, legs go back, mild swivel at the top of the thigh, double hinge on the knee, and then the articulation on the ankle not only up and down this way, but you can also rock it back and forth as well. Again, short of the fact that maybe the figure's arms, I think, are maybe just a tad too long, and maybe it would have been nice as well that they could have included a second pair of glasses that actually would have had the translucent green instead of the painted green all around. Not a bad looking Robin. Going to move her decapitated head over to the side for right now. On to then Batman. And again, we'll have a look at the accessories that all come included with the figure. Hand-wise, let's start with these ones. I kind of love these ones. The figure comes included, like in the comics, the hands that are actually holding several batarangs, doing some destructive damage. These are painted well here in the silver. And again, nice paint also happening here on the hands. You can see some nice darker colors of blue being used. He comes with those. He comes with a couple of gestured hands. More, again, if you want to have him more in a gesture, more kind of in a flying pose. Actually, you know what? I do want to mimic the characters on my shelf actually leaping in the air, kind of like we did, or kind of like they've shown in the comic advertisement or promotional artwork. Figure does also have a pair of relaxed hands. One thing I will say, though, about the hands is that they are a little harder to plug in place. And the figure also does come include with the batarang hands, which I actually did have them holding the wrong way. The batarangs actually, in fact, sit inside Batman's between his thumbs and his finger like that. I know I tried to fit it in the top there. There's not actually an available slot, but it does actually fit in the front. So he's, in fact, like holding it like this. The figure also comes included with a couple of these hands, too. Now, these are the hands that are better for holding, of course, the batarangs. The batarangs just sit very easily into Batman's hand. Those were the hands I really should have showed you at the beginning of the review instead. Move those out of the way. Batman also comes included with a swappable head like Carrie Kelly. Now, this one, overlooking, obviously, the mouth. The mouth is one thing that can't swap out, so don't look at this and just assume that, oh, this is the angry expression Batman. No, you can actually change the mouth. But the face, in this case, actually does have the slightly squinted eye. This one has the open eye. And just to pick up Batman so you can see the difference between the two, don't worry about the mouths. Don't worry about the mouths. But this one does have just a regular neutral face, has both quite large eyes of equal size, of equal, shape. And then this one, again, has the more squinted eye, you can see, damaged on the side. The neat thing about this is that the figure does come included with lots of swappable mouths. In fact, it comes a total of 4. A total of 4 on the side, 2 that we actually have on the head, so that's a total of 6. For the neutral expression, he sort of has just a defaulted mouth. And again, it's quite easy to really remove the mouthpieces. You also get this mouth that doesn't really all that seem different than the one we already have here. Changing out the mouths, by the way, you simply just hold on to the sides and pop those right off. The Michael Keaton Batman that we also had a look at from Beast Kingdom was a little harder to change the mouths, but not the case here with the Dark Knight Batman. Simply just hold to the sides and pull it right off. But again, to look at the two, it doesn't look like much does change between the two. And what's rather interesting is actually the nostrils of the nose stay behind with the mask every single time you remove the face. So it kind of looks strange when you look at just the mouth alone. The figure also comes included with a more bruised and badly damaged mouth. And again, just to remove this and pop this in place, you can again see the only thing that's really different is a busted up lip. And again, it's a little bit of bruising there on the side of the face as well. The figure also comes included with another variation of that, which again, to look at that, it doesn't look like anything does change between the two. To note as well, inside the packaging, there was actually a tiny little baggie, and a few extra of these little mouths were inside of that. But I don't honestly think there's any difference to warrant really having them included in the first place. Though if you want to get the full effect, Batman does have also a grimaced mouth. And again, we already had a look at that somewhat when we had a look at the alternate head sculpt. That's what he looks like with the grimaced face. And again, that's what he looks like with somewhat the same face, although this one's more clean, and then this one just, again, has the busted up lip. One thing also this Batman does have is light-up features, and we're going to talk about that right now. First of all, the figure, in order to access the battery compartment, you have to flip up the cape. And then from there, there's actually several more steps. You have to unzip the back of his outfit. And then inside, there's the battery cover. The battery cover you have to remove, and you have to install batteries. Now, it does say you have to install, I think, 4 LR batteries, but I honestly found that 4 LRs weren't enough. I had to include the 5th. Once I included the 5th, sure enough, it did light up, so you might in fact have to use 5 instead of the 4. Putting all the 5 button cell batteries in, the light up switch is actually in the same compartment as the lid. Once you remove the lid, it's just below the batteries. I do wish that the battery light up, the switch itself, was actually on the outside of the cover, not actually on the inside, so it was one less step to do. And then from there, you simply just turn the switch on. I'm going to flip Batman around so you can see. Can I do both? Can I walk and talk at the same time? There we go. Once it's illuminated, you can see Batman having some really bright looking eyes. And boy, does that ever look sharp. In order to, of course, get to this step, some steps prior to that had to be involved. One thing, again, is the zipper's a little hard to have to do this every single time I want to turn on and off the figure. I wish they could have maybe used Velcro, for example. I mean, you can obviously cheat as well, too. Batman's cape can cover over the situation all the time. At the very least, I would probably say, so I'm going to leave this unzipped and just put the battery cover back in place. So all I really then need to do is the next time somebody wants to see what Batman's eyes look like lit up, all I have to really do then is just flip the cape, pull off the battery compartment, and access the switch from there. But I do wish, though, that the switch was, first of all, accessible on the outside, so I didn't have to remove the plate right away. And maybe, if anything, swap instead the zipper for Velcro. I like that they took the time to add a zipper, but I think Velcro would have been a lot easier to access things. Anyways, with Batman's eyes lit up like this, we can go ahead then and remove the head. And again, we're just going to pop that right off. You can see the way everything's illuminated onto the top here. I do have to kind of wonder as well, could they have maybe added the battery compartment inside the head? It's, I feel, of a right size. There's also a split down the middle there as well, that they could have maybe had this as a removable option, put the batteries in the back, and maybe had only the 2 button cell batteries as opposed to the 5 I ended up using. Then to put this in place, pop that back onto the ball joint. This may involve a little bit more pressure than you think you may have to use. Just pop that back on. And now that Batman does have, only in this case, one illuminated eye, and the other one seems to be damaged. Now, I would have to look online to see if it's supposed to look like this. It does almost look as if there's a crack in the top of his eye. I do like the look of this side, but this other eye, if it is bruised, if it is battered, unfortunately, you can still see a little bit of light peeking out the top. It does look a little out of place. So maybe what we'll do for right now is we're going to replace it, go back to the beginning, and put back in the defaulted head. There we go. Yeah, I do like the look of that. And again, just not to drain the batteries for the rest of this review, let's just flip this back, switch back off the switch, and now we can have a look at the rest of the Batman figure. I do like the look and design of Batman, as it would have been in the case in the comics. He's big, he's bulky, he really should be this size. And of course, they're using real fabric clothing, which does actually look quite good to Batman. He has on his costume, as you can see, notable stripes, the way that they've actually used the material here. And of course, printed over top of that is the Batman emblem. Very wide, occupying a lot of real estate space on Batman's torso. Like in the comics, he doesn't actually have a belt buckle. Instead, what he's got is just a series of rows of pockets. Just one row, well, not even so much a row, just one single row, but pocket after pocket after pocket, done nicely here in a mustard yellow. A little bit of wash also goes a long way here as well to bring out a lot of the details to the belt. That looks quite good. And again, like he's got plastic here for the tops of his gloves, and then of course the gloves continue on from that. The gloves actually are using as well, I should say, like the peg. Let me just remove the peg. The peg is one thing that's a little harder to do with this figure. And in fact, when you do get this figure for yourself, let's go ahead and remove one of these hands here. Find one of the hands I was going to be using initially anyways, and I think it was this hand here I was going to use probably for the final looks. Popping this back into place, I would certainly say that all the hands, and the reason why I'm showing you this part of the review right now, all of the hands I would certainly suggest when you go to put them back into the ball joints, I don't know if you can actually see, the ball joint's slightly bigger than the hole that it has to go into. So you may want to heat the hand first. Now I did heat this specific hand, that's the only reason why I'm going back to this hand right now, and just this plugs back into place. Now, you are going to have a little bit of difficult time because the peg system, the way they've got the ball joint, it always is going to be hinging away from the figure. And again, you're just going to want to take the hand and wiggle it on there. Heating the hand certainly does go a long way. It certainly helps to have the hand attached properly to the ball joint. And with any luck, you can get that hand perfectly in place. There we go. Looking at the rest of the figure, again, like all of this is fabric covered over top of the existing body underneath. The fabric looks good, as well as the way they've painted the blue in the boots, the blue and obviously in the gloves. The glove color of blue is not quite the same as they did for the hands themselves, but still overall looks pretty good on this figure. The cape is also one thing that they've done nicely by adding also a wire frame all along the down side of the cape, and not all along the bottom, but it does give you at least a little bit of option to display the figure with more of a dynamic posed cape. Everybody loves dynamic capes. For the articulation, though, on Batman, it's about the same as Carrie Kelly's Robin. The head rotates back and forth, hinges also up and down, even though despite the fact it does have a light source in the top, it doesn't seem to impede the articulation on the figure's head. As for the figure's arms, the arms seem to come out still at about that 90-degree angle bend. It does start to stretch a little bit of the armpit area of the fabric, but you can still move the arms quite freely forward and back and in and out. Figure does have a bicep swivel. The figure does also have a double hinge on the elbow, and you can rotate the hands all the way around on that ball joint. Upper torso is on a ball joint as well. You can split the legs quite easily as well, giving Batman about a splits to look like that. You can take the legs, move them forward, you can move them back. There's a mild swivel at the top of the thigh. Double hinge in this case for Batman, and then there's again that articulation. Again, when you're looking at the joint in this case for the ankles is dark black. Again, I wish they could have used the blue so it would have been a nice seamless look from the top of the boot all the way down to the bottoms of the feet. Speaking of the bottoms of the feet, that's what bottoms of Batman's feet look like. And the figure does have some nice toe articulation as well. Not to mention, of course, in the middle, it's got some nice ankle pivot happening there too. Yeah, you know, as a whole, it's a good-looking set, especially if you're a fan of the original Dark Knight Returns comic run. Again, a few little things that I would certainly point out is that Carrie Kelly's Robin's arms seem a little more longer than they should. Batman, while does having a light-up option available, it's a little harder, unfortunately, to access that battery compartment, as you certainly saw in this review. I do wish maybe like the light-up option was somewhere else on the figure's body. Ideally, it would have worked perfectly if they could have found the way they did the similar things that I think they've done in previous cases where they put lights in the eyes, in the back of the head. I wish they could have done something like that instead of relying on the batteries being on the back of the torso. Being on the back of the torso also means as well you have to unzip Batman's outfit. To get access to the battery compartment, you have to lift up the flap, which I already have taken the time to do. And then even from there, you have to turn on and off the switch to turn on Batman's eyes. I gotta feel there's a better place. There's another area that they could have put the light up functions, or at least the switch. The battery compartment could be always covered for all I care, but at the very least, if they put the switch elsewhere, it would mean that you have a lot easier of a time to turn on the Cape Crusader's eyes whenever you want it. I've recreated that classic look of Batman and Carrie Kelly's Robin leaping in the air, and the look is uncanny. Okay, maybe it's not. One thing also, obviously the figure I can't quite get in the same quite pose as what it would look in the promotional artwork, and obviously the notable thing is that Batman's very different in a costume than what we got in the original comics. In the comics, his costume, his cowl, his cape, his boots, his gloves were all kind of more that grayish blue, and instead of obviously having the oval and the yellow, and then of course the bat emblem inside of that, he had instead just a big giant black bat. This is more of a classic looking Batman that goes along with Carrie Kelly's Robin. And I do kind of still like the look of this. I do obviously miss the big black logo, and I'm sure they did release that Batman on his own. This is the one that gets packaged, though, however, with Carrie Kelly's Robin. The two figures do quite work well together. I love the amount of accessories, first of all, that come included with the set anyways. There's a lot of stuff to go around, even though I really haven't displayed anything of that, actually, in the final looks here of the figure. Rest assured, though, I will be definitely displaying these two figures with weapons in their hands. Batman has too many cool accessories. The one that I might even lean more to displaying him with is the hand that holds the 4 batarangs. Vicious. Love the look of that one. And, of course, Carrie Kelly being able to have the means to hold her slingshot, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the figure holding it when I have the figures on display. The figures do have some slight problems, but nothing too outrageous to the point where it's going to break the idea of wanting to pick up the set for yourself. The only thing I would say, if anything, is the Batman light-up features of his eyes. While do appreciate the fact that they included it, it is a little harder, admittingly, to get access to those on the back of his cape, unzipping his outfit, taking off the battery. Again, we talked all about that in the review. Carrie Kelly doesn't obviously have light-up features, but I do kind of wish that the figure could have had a pair of specs, ones of which that actually would have had translucent lenses, so you can either have her displayed with all the green, solid green painted lenses, or you can have the ones with translucent green instead. Other than that, though, I really like the look of this set, and a big thank you to the folks over at Beast Kingdom that did provide this sample of the Batman Dark Knight Returns DAH-044DX Batman and Robin, which is available right now online and certainly through specialty stores and comic book stores if you guys are interested to pick up the set for yourself. If you have already picked up the set, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of it. Or if you haven't yet picked it up, based on this review, what do you guys think of the set overall? And as well, if you guys enjoyed the video, want to hit with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing and do certainly want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, yes, and move on over to the bell notification as well. And while we have wrapped up things right now for the Batman Dark Knight Returns Batman and Carrie Kelly's Robin, there is going to be more Beast Kingdom reviews coming your way. So make sure you're coming back to this channel on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.